Okay. Okay. Good evening, everybody. It's really nice to see all of you here. We have family members, as Jack Thunheim said earlier. We had a member of the Board of Regents, members of our Central University of Minnesota administration, faculty, staff of the Humphrey School, a student or two, and many, many beloved community partners. And we're so glad that we're all together to celebrate the accomplishments of Eric Schwartz, a beloved colleague who will remain that way, as Jack said, but will just be relocating to Washington, D.C. I'm Laura Bloomberg. I'm the Associate Dean of the Humphrey School. And in June, when Eric transitions to new adventures in Washington, D.C., I will be succeeding him as Dean of the Humphrey School. Thank you. But that fact really isn't relevant to tonight's festivities, except for one thing. I am going to give you two pieces of advice tonight, one of them now and one of them later. And one of them is really important to you. Trust me. When you talk to Eric tonight about what he will be doing in Washington and where he is going and what will be happening here when he leaves, do not ask him, who will you be replacing at Refugees International? And do not ask him who is replacing him here. Because as affable as Eric is, and trust me, I have told him this before, I think he is the most affable guy I know. But he has his pet peeves, and this is one. Maybe you can shout it out. What do we replace, Eric?
Succeed.
We succeed people, we replace toasters. I bet he's told me that 100 times in the past 2 months. So we would get a press release, and he would say, people, we've got to get this replaced out of the lexicon. We succeed people. So this is a piece of advice. Do not ask him who he's replacing. Do ask him who he may be succeeding or who is succeeding him. Like I said, the other piece of advice comes later. So my job tonight is a fun one. I simply get to MC the night's speakers, and I am also the wrangler, because although the speakers who will be up here on the stage have, I'm sure, wonderful and important things to say, you all want an opportunity to speak with Eric directly and share your own personal thoughts. So in addition to introducing them, I will be wrangling as necessary so that we can move along with some haste, and you have plenty of time to socialize afterwards. So with that, I'd like to introduce and welcome to the stage a real ally of the Humphrey School, and someone for whom I know Eric Schwartz has the highest regard. Please join me in welcoming the University of Minnesota President Eric Kaler.
Thank you, Lauren. Good evening, everyone. Let's do a little history. Eric was the first dean I hired after I was appointed president of the University of Minnesota. I was still provost at Stony Brook, and he journeyed out to Long Island, and we had a great conversation, and I said, yeah, this is the right guy for the job. And I wish every decision I had made in the intervening 6 years was as good as that one. But with an excellent staff, with a really supportive and focused faculty, I think we all agree that Dean Schwartz has done an excellent job here. And now let's just reflect on what's coming next. He's taking a job that likely pays less. It has a worse retirement plan, increased international stresses, different kinds of presidential stresses. It's that kind of upward mobility that we celebrate at the University of Minnesota, that somebody can take such a wonderful opportunity to do that. So Eric, thank you for that. Thank you for your service to the community. Thank you for your service to the world. We really are very proud that you are following your heart, following your politics, and going to Washington, D.C. I do have to reflect that this might be a little bit different job in Washington, D.C. than you might have been thinking about 6 or 8 months ago, but that happens too. Elections have consequences, I'm told. You're eminently qualified to do this. We're excited for you. We wish you the very best. I'm delighted to see here your daughter Sarah, your sister Martha, and your twin brother. Who knew? Where is Carl? Looks just like you. Yeah, that's kind of scary. But we're glad that you're here. So I'll finish by making a couple of things very clear. Eric has been a wonderful and loyal University of Minnesota citizen. He and his wife Kathy have been generous donors to the school and the university, and I'm grateful for that. And while he is, in fact, leaving us now, succeeding somebody. I thank you for that tip because I didn't say that. I didn't. He is remaining on our faculty in a part-time status, and I surely hope that one day he will return in a larger role. That would be great. So until then, Eric, I wish you and Kathy all the best in the years to come. The Humphrey School will miss you, the university will miss you, and I will miss you. Good luck.
Thank you, President Kaler. Our next speaker, another real ally of the school, is someone who I believe holds a philosopher's wisdom and thoughtfulness. And I know Eric has relied on this individual for trusted advice and guidance many, many times in recent years. And she has responded generously and creatively. Please join me in welcoming the University of Minnesota Executive Vice President and Provost Karen Hansen.
Thank you, Laura. Saying farewell to a wonderful colleague is always bittersweet, but because Eric has been a great colleague, it's important to step up, to say that he's been a great colleague, and to let him know as he departs that he takes with him our collective thanks, our admiration, and our best wishes. There is, in fact, a double measure of mixed emotions, because I'm sure that all of us feel a little more hopeful in these troubled times, because Eric is, once again, stepping up on the world stage to grapple with some truly critical issues of human rights. But still, it is very hard to see Eric leave us as dean. There's no question that Eric has helped to set the bar higher at the University of Minnesota, and I mean for all of us. I have the privilege of working closely with all the deans of our colleges and schools. Each of them is an accomplished academic leader, but it's not every day that you sit down with a dean and realize that the person sitting at your conference table was, just a few weeks earlier, sitting at a table in the nation's capital with his old boss, who just happened to be the Secretary of State and who just happened to win the popular vote for the presidency of the United States. As you know, Eric has played key roles in managing some of the biggest global challenges and crises of the last decades. This certainly meant he could be a key asset in our strategies to position the university to address more powerfully and more visibly the grand challenges of Minnesota and the world. Of course, there are also the little challenges. His experiences in the Situation Room may not have entirely prepared him for the day-to-day turnings of university politics, where, the disagreeably cynical saying goes, the politics are so bitter because the stakes are so low. I don't think the stakes are low, but the folkways are different and sometimes opaque. But of course, Eric sprinted up the learning curve as he's done throughout his varied and successful career. Perhaps that's because of the mission of the Humphrey School, to inspire, educate, and support innovative leaders to advance the common good, is, in a very real sense, also Eric's mission, his calling. It reflects the abiding commitments he has to humanitarianism and to public service. And those have stretched across his entire career. There is that list on the back of your programs that highlights some of the remarkable ways that the Humphrey School and the university have benefited from Eric's leadership as dean. That list is a testament to Eric's vision, his principled leadership, and his deeply felt commitment to making a meaningful, positive difference in the world. Eric, as you move on to play once again in a more direct role in world affairs, please know that we continue to be so proud of your leadership as dean. You've propelled the Humphrey School and the university in the right direction, upward, and left accomplishments on which we will continue to build. We'll miss your terrific sense of humor, your warmth and collegiality, your sage advice, and your boundless energy. But most of all, we'll continue to be inspired by your inspiring leadership and commitment as you embark on the next chapter of your distinguished career. We send you off with our thanks and our best wishes to you and Kathy and the family, our ongoing pride and our ongoing friendship. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. We're going to introduce the next three speakers together, and then they will come up one after the other. They will, in fact, succeed each other on this stage. These are three speakers who have seen Eric perhaps at his professional best, possibly occasionally at his professional worst, often at his most passionate, or at his most angry, when he's the most angry about injustice, which is really the only time I see Eric ever get truly angry. These are people who see Eric every day in his work environment and know him at that kind of special professional level that I think is really important. But lest we think that we're really talking about a saint here, at least one of these speakers, his teaching assistant, has also probably seen him when he can't find where the hell he's supposed to be in the classroom, or lost his syllabus again, or isn't sure where the papers are that need to be graded. And I know that he relies on her very deeply. So first we will hear from Associate Professor Jim Rahn, who is also our Stassen Chair for International Affairs. And following Jim, we will hear from Molly Hayes, a trusted teaching assistant of Eric's, who is going to be graduating this spring. And Eric also wanted me to point out that he has had two really valued and important and trusted teaching assistants. The other is Erin Olson, who is not here tonight. So Molly, oh, she's here, but won't be speaking. But Molly will be speaking and representing them both. And then a really valued and trusted community partner, Fartun Welly, who is the founder and director of Issaroon, will be speaking. And for those of you who don't know the organization Issaroon, it's an organization that's dedicated to the well-being and the connectedness of Somali women here and around the world. So we will welcome in order Jim Rahn, and then Molly Hayes, and then Fartun Welly. So Jim?
Eric and I came here together 6 years ago, and I must admit that when he came, I was not predisposed to like him. He was a Washington insider, and I was not, and he knew power and had been on the National Security Council, and I had spent my whole life railing against those who had power. So I was skeptical. But Eric won me over, and I'm going to tell you two anecdotes about how he did so. But he's leaving now after 6 years, to my great sorrow. He's become a good friend, and he's shown me really how to be a true leader, and I have learned an enormous amount from him. Let me tell you those two anecdotes. They're fun. Anecdote number one is shortly after Eric and I arrived, Eric had the fortune or the misfortune to be involved in bringing Condoleezza Rice to the school. And for those of you who were around at the time, I know President Kaler certainly was, those were trying times. I read about Condoleezza Rice's coming as a civil rights person, and she was going to receive an award, and I blew a gasket. And I invited Eric to have lunch with me, or he invited me, and I railed and yelled and screamed and said, "How could you possibly do this?" And then I walked away from that meeting and called every single person I knew in Minnesota and in the world to try and mobilize a protest against it. And many of my colleagues joined in, and it's one of the reasons why I love the Humphrey School. And we had a real blow-up. And I just assumed after that it would be very choppy sailing until Eric left. I assumed that we would be at loggerheads. I assumed that the faculty would be torn. I assumed that he would hold a grudge. I never articulated that, but I just assumed that's the way people react to huge fights like that. And instead, over the next 5 years, Eric was the most wonderful, compassionate, forgiving leader I had ever experienced in my life, in my 20 years as an academic. He held no grudges. He was angry at no one. He handled it with grace. He never said that he felt that he had made a mistake, but he suggested that maybe had things been, if he were to do it over again, he might do it differently. But he handled it with incredible grace. And that won me over. And I think it won a lot of us over. And we realized that we were dealing with someone of real quality, real integrity. The second incident that I want to share with you is the Masters of Human Rights, which Eric got created here a few years ago. We talked about it when I arrived, and I said, I talked to some of my fellow faculty members, and I told Eric, it's not going to happen, my friend. I share your passion for this master's degree, but the faculty isn't interested, and there's no buy-in. It's just not going to happen. And I am not going to burn any of my scarce capital trying to convince my colleagues that we should have this master's degree. And Eric said, okay. And then he went out, and he had a conversation with every single faculty member over the course of, I don't know how many weeks and months. He talked with people all across the university, and I still didn't believe that he would pull it off. I thought this was after the Condoleezza Rice episode, and I thought, here is where the dean goes down for a second time in a flaming pile of mess. And then we had a meeting, and all the faculty was there, and he gave the most beautiful, impassioned speech for why we needed a Master's of Human Rights, which I agreed with entirely, but I thought would convince no one. And lo and behold, I think the vote was overwhelmingly in his favor. And I walked out of that meeting, and I thought, this guy really knows what he's doing. He's a Washington insider, but in the good sense of the word. He knows how to build coalitions. He knows how to overcome opposition. He knows how to do the right thing, and when people spit in his face, he handles it beautifully. And I know that we're being turned over to a woman who you had the great insight to choose, and she's great, and she's going to do a fantastic job. But we're going to miss you, and I'm going to look forward to seeing you in Washington whenever I come.
First of all, I want to thank Dr. Bloomberg and Dean Schwartz for allowing me to graduate a full year early for my program. I'm just kidding. So I'm a first year master's of public affairs student at the Humphrey School, and I also was fortunate enough to know Dean Schwartz by reputation from the time that he and I both spent at the State Department. So I was very excited when he asked me if I would be his TA for the fall semester. When I agreed to be Dean Schwartz's TA, I didn't realize the full extent to which he would treat me as a colleague. What do you think? What are your thoughts on that? Do you think this is fair? These are the questions that he asked me every day, and it was every day. He really wanted to make certain that both he and I were allowing the students in his class to reach their full potential. He approached teaching, grading, mentoring, and advising for a 32-person graduate-level class with the same level of rigor, critical analysis, high standard of excellence, enthusiasm, and delight with which he approached his previous position with the State Department. His ability to make connections between humanitarianism and students' lives here in Minnesota was astonishing. He made it real, which is what made it so exciting. As his TA in 2014, Aaron Olson, who's there at the back, he could wave for everybody, put it, he wanted to discuss students' ideas in their papers as real solutions to problems, not just as class assignments. Dean Schwartz is somebody who encourages us all to be thoughtful about the challenges we face and compassionate in our actions. In preparing for this, I solicited feedback from a number of Dean Schwartz's students, and I have a whole list of anecdotes here that I could go into, but there's one that I wanted to share from a student named Elise Holmes, and she said that it's okay if I share this with you tonight. The morning after the presidential election, during a Humphrey-sponsored discussion event, Dean Schwartz and Elise sat at the same table, and Elise expressed her situation that was somewhat unique as an evangelical Christian and a supporter of Hillary Clinton, and her difficulty in connecting with her own religious community in the wake of the results of the election. Dean Schwartz not only met her concerns with empathy, but immediately thought of somebody he had worked with on the campaign that fit a similar profile to her and provided contact information to reach out. This example stuck out for Elise because it showed that he wasn't siloed professionally. Dean Schwartz never stayed in his lane in terms of a policy topic, religious ideology, political ideology, and worked well with people of all backgrounds and made us all feel valued. So I want to close with a few words. I asked a number of Dean Schwartz's former students to give me one word that they think of, the first word that comes to mind when they think of the dean. Connector, selfless, engaged, impactful, thoughtful, big-hearted, servant leader, experienced, capable, confident, caring, and welcoming. Thank you, Dean Schwartz. You've made a huge impact in my life. You've made a huge impact on the lives of an entire generation of Humphrey School students. We're going to miss you, but we are so excited to stay in touch with you and see where you go next.
Hello, everybody. I'm so glad to be here today or this evening. When I saw the email announcement about Dean Schwartz leaving, I said, uh-oh, not him. Because we have a great relationship, and after the election, but also before the election, being a refugee, coming from a refugee community, and sometimes it's so hard to find someone who understands local issues, state issue, but also where the communities and immigrants come from. And he has such a knowledge of how the global is connected, but also how each community both has a struggle and a strength as well. So I lead a small nonprofit, and one of our passions is really working with Somali women and their health issues. And a couple years ago, we approached the school and we wanted to do a maternal child health project for Somalia. And Professor Atwood, who also left, he broke my heart, but he's in a good place, helped us with a student project, and we did an amazing culturally specific reproductive health project for Somalia. So 5 students have helped us. Also, with your leadership, we have a lot of Somalis who have gone through the school, who are going through the school. The environment is very welcoming, and I think this, I've realized as I became more close to you, and you're so generous of sharing with your friends and bringing me into your circle, that I've realized how generous and human compassion that you have. As a Somali American woman, Muslim who's black, who is always trying to strive to do better, what amazes me about you is that you really are aware who's not at the table, and you have a way of inviting people in while letting them be who they are, and this is a true inclusion in my mind. And in closing, I'm not going to say goodbye to you because we're going to be talking about global issues. You know how I feel about women's rights wherever they live, and I know we have a friend and an ally. So in our closing, I want to say thank you for being a friend for Somali community. Thank you for being a friend for justice and women's rights and everyone else around the world. And I know wherever you go, you'll be taking care of and looking out people who are not at the table. Thank you so much.
This, dear friends, is a beloved man, huh? This winter, after Eric delivered the State of the School address, I had the opportunity to offer some closing comments, and I will tell you tonight what I said then. If this school is thriving, and I believe we are, and if this school is climbing in the rankings, and we know we are, And if this school is headed in the right direction, which I firmly believe we are, it is largely because Eric has been the sure foot of the compass that guides us. And for years, he has done that in a way that allows us all to grow and to thrive ourselves, and then to thrive as a community. And we owe him a debt of gratitude. I personally am very proud to call him my friend, my mentor, and my colleague. And in a moment, I'm going to invite him to come up and speak with you. But first, I'm going to give you that last piece of advice, and now we're just done being nice for a minute, because it would get too weird for Eric if it was just like way too nice, right? So here's the other piece of advice, and I'll explain why I say this, but I'll just get to the punchline. Don't touch the guy's pens. Just don't touch his damn pens. Really, I'm not kidding you. Eric has on his desk this very pristine, I don't know, mahogany or something, some fancy box with a glass top and really expensive pens in it. And he told me once that it's like his jewelry for him. It's like some people invest in fine jewelry. I invest in pens. And more than once, not a lot, but a few times in recent years, Eric has come into my office with something close to a stricken look on his face and saying, "Do you have my pen? You know, the maroon one with the gold something something and the fancy schmancy tip?" And I'm like, Eric, if it doesn't say Bic or Holiday Inn on it, it is not in my office. I'm just telling you, I do not have your pen. And Kathy, where's Kathy? You know this, right? This happened when you were in my office once, and we thought, oh, God, did one of us misplace one of his pens? Oh, no, that would not be good. So the advice, just leave him alone. I'm telling you, it won't end well if you misplace a pen. But Eric has been out of town for the last several days, and it might be that we have been messing with his pens while he's been gone. So I'm going to invite Eric to the stage now. Come on up. We have something for Eric, and while he is up here and Andrea must be close by, I want to explain something about what we are about to give Eric. First of all, I got to tell you that I think it was last year or maybe a couple of years ago, we heard this lovely story about Eric biking across campus on his way to the gym to work out. And he said, it was such a gorgeous Saturday morning, and I think the sun was shining, and he was biking across the quad, and it was so gorgeous, and it was so moving to him what he saw on this University of Minnesota campus that he had to stop and get off his bike and take a picture because it was so gorgeous, and then he posted it on Facebook. And the way he told the story convinced all of us that Eric may be moving to D.C., but he will be leaving a part of his heart here with us and this University of Minnesota campus. So what we've done is taken a picture of the campus and had all of his colleagues sign the mat so that it can hang in his office with him. And we tried to return all your pens to their rightful place when we did it. So with that, this is it. Eric Schwartz. You're welcome.
He sounds like he was quite a guy. I wish I had known him. Look, I want to express my deep appreciation to the University of Minnesota for the gift of being the steward of a unique and a wonderful institution over the past 6 years. It's very easy, to wake up every day thinking about how to better realize Hubert Humphrey's vision about the role of public institutions in public life when you're at a place that has such a rich tradition of support for the role of public institutions and public servants, and much more importantly, a remarkable community of stakeholders and supporters. And so I am just enormously grateful for the opportunity that I was given over the past 6 years, and I look forward to seeing the Humphrey School continue to thrive and excel, and to being connected with this wonderful institution. You've seen so much from me over the last many weeks, departure statements, state of the school addresses, so you don't need to hear much more from me than that. But before I close, I want to express my appreciation. I want to express my appreciation and sincere thanks to President Kaler and Provost Hanson, who I think have always demonstrated to me their understanding and appreciation and really unequivocal support for this institution. They have an awareness of just what a vital role it plays. And I was told at a prior event that I should never say this when other deans are present, but it's hard to think of an initiative, a request, an idea that we've had, that we've presented to the president and the provost, that they've said, no, we can't do it. We don't have the resources, we don't have the funds. Are any other deans here? Still? Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, so I leave you with that. And that makes all the difference in the world, combined with the willingness on the part of our president and provost to trust the judgment and the instincts and the autonomy of the deans. So I'm enormously grateful. I'm enormously grateful for an extraordinary staff at the Humphrey School, a team, and of course, because I work most closely with them day in and day out, the team in the dean's office, an esprit de corps in that group, dedication to excellence, a willingness to take the work so seriously but not take themselves so seriously. All of that has been really just remarkable. I'm deeply grateful to our faculty at the Humphrey School, an extraordinary faculty. I heard a lot about faculty before I got here. I mean, and their individual interests taking prominence over the interests of the institution. But if you spend time with the faculty at this place, you don't really understand what that means, because there is such a sense of each one of our faculty members in their own right is a scholar of national distinction. But when we're together, the focus is on what is right for the institution as a whole. And I'm deeply grateful for that. And finally, or penultimately, I deeply appreciate the support of this community, our Humphrey Advisory Council, our chair, Jack Thunheim, and an institution that, if not uniquely, unusually, is embedded in a community of supporters that makes this really a remarkable place. So thank you. And then finally, 2 additional words of thanks with an awareness that I'm sure I'm leaving important people out. Thanks to Laura Bloomberg, the best damn associate dean a dean could ever want to have. And I am delighted that the provost has appointed Laura to succeed me. I think the school will soar, and I'm deeply, deeply grateful to Laura for her vision, her service, and her dedication and her friendship. And finally, I would be remiss if I didn't also express a word of deep appreciation to the guy who educated me on how to be a dean, Greg Lindsay, who was my executive associate dean when I first got here, who mentored me, who is the definition of grace and decency, and dedication. So Laura and Greg, are you here? Oh, many thanks, many thanks. And so it's only 22 minutes to 8. There's food there, so please stay, enjoy yourself, and again, thank you all so very much.